Evolution is speeding up, and the proof is in our DNA. I know what you're probably thinking. Isn't evolution an agonizingly slow process that takes millions of years? Well, yes and no. That's actually one of the biggest misconceptions in biology. While major structural changes and new species often take eons to form, evolutionary change can also happen in a flash under the right environmental conditions. Another common misconception is the idea that humans have reached the end of the evolutionary line. In reality, we're evolving faster today than at any point since the dawn of agriculture. Multiple studies on human DNA have found that human evolution has become 100 times faster over the last 5,000 years. We aren't an isolated case either. Polar bears in the Arctic, Cape ground squirrels in the desert, birds in our cities, organisms across the entire planet are evolving faster than we ever thought was possible. I'm KP, a marine biologist, and today we're talking about a phenomenon called rapid evolution, which is often the result of extreme events and intense environmental pressures. One of the most extreme events in human history was the dawn of agriculture, also known as the Neolithic Revolution. About 11,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, multiple human cultures worldwide independently shifted from nomadic hunting and gathering to growing crops and raising animals. This didn't just change the way we lived and behaved, it also changed our environment. We cut and burned trees to make large fields for crops, irrigation channels changed the natural flow of rivers, and we domesticated animals. This changed our diets, exposed us to new diseases, and rewrote our DNA. A study published in April of this year created one of the most comprehensive genetic timelines ever assembled by comparing DNA from 16,000 ancient human genomes from the Neolithic Revolution with 6,438 modern genetic samples. It found hundreds of genetic changes in a relatively short time. Some of these changes make sense. As we developed more reliable food sources, genes related to body fat became less common. Mutations associated with resistance to diseases like malaria became more common when we started living alongside animals. And as we began farming cows for milk, cheese, and butter, we developed mutations that allow for the ability to digest milk after weaning. But other changes seem almost contradictory. As we began farming wheat and producing flour, we developed a major genetic risk of gluten intolerance and celiac disease. All this talk about genetics has me curious about my own DNA, so I partnered with MyHeritage. With my code KP19, you get the DNA kit, a 30-day free trial, free shipping, and so much more for just $19, which is way lower than any other DNA test I've looked at. It was super easy to take, a simple cheek swab, and then drop it in the mail. I've just got the results, and I haven't opened them yet because I thought that we should check them out together. Hopefully there's nothing weird in there. Okay, 37.5% English, 8.4% Southern Central American, 7.5% Spanish. MyHeritage also connects you to living relatives. Looks like I have 14,000 DNA matches and 13 first or second cousins. There's also this new feature called Discover Your Ancient Origins that can trace your DNA back up to 10,000 years. So let's see if I have any connections to real ancient populations like the early Neolithic farmers. 33.8% Anatolian Neolithic farmer. Interesting. So this is literally middle Neolithic farmer. That's funny. This stuff is so fun, and I'll probably need hours to get through all the information. If you want to find your own relatives or genetic history, the QR code is on the screen, or there's a link down in the descriptions and pinned comment. Don't forget to use my code KP19. MyHeritage has committed in its privacy policy to never sell or license genetic data, which is incredibly important these days. The increased risk of celiac disease and gluten intolerance after we began farming wheat is interesting because it doesn't make sense on the surface. But some genes affect multiple traits, and increasing the performance of one trait can decrease the performance of another. One example is the gene variant that increases resistance to malaria. It also raises the risk of sickle cell disease. This is something called an evolutionary trade-off. I love evolutionary trade-offs. Which is a biological compromise where improving one trait simultaneously decreases the performance of another trait. We can see this in cheetahs. A cheetah's fast twitch muscle fibers allow them to sprint at extreme speeds, but only for short bursts. They quickly get exhausted and simply aren't built for long extended chases. Just like Usain Bolt was a dominant sprinter in the 100 and 200 meter dash, but he never won a marathon. He never even competed in a marathon because, just like a cheetah, he traded stamina for speed. Here's another example of both an evolutionary trade-off and an animal undergoing rapid evolution. The bighorn ram. They've been under extreme selective pressure from trophy hunting. In the wild, natural predators like wolves will target the weak, sick, and elderly individuals in a population. This selective pressure typically increases the overall fitness of the population. Trophy hunters do the opposite. They target the biggest and strongest trophies. In some places, they're only allowed to target the biggest and strongest. In Alberta, local regulations only allow hunters to target animals whose horns are large enough to form a complete circle. So what happened was animals with smaller horns survived and passed on the gene for smaller horns, while individuals with larger horns were culled from the population. One study found that the most successful breeding ram was one with especially short horns, because he could never be legally hunted. This short-horned ram was able to sire over 25 offspring. Now, the potential problem here is that while shorter horns are a beneficial trait during hunting season, they're not necessarily a beneficial trait overall, and the genes associated with shorter horns could also impact other traits. So, by hunting rams with the largest horns, you might actually be depressing the population as a whole. Hunting isn't the only human activity triggering rapid evolution. Let's take a look at a bird called the Central European blackcap. During the summer, it lives in Central Europe. In the winter, it typically migrates southwest to Spain, but some blackcaps carry a gene that causes them to migrate northwest towards the UK, where they wouldn't survive the winter. That changed in the 1960s when bird watching and backyard bird feeding became a popular hobby in the UK. This provided the blackcaps with a food supply, allowing them to survive the winter and return to the summer breeding grounds in Germany and Austria. The migration route to the UK is about half the distance as the migration route to Spain. So the UK blackcaps would arrive at the breeding grounds sooner and mate with the other UK blackcaps and not the southwest blackcaps. This led to a genetic divergence and reproductive isolation. The northwest migrating birds no longer breed with the southwest migrating birds. The result is northwest blackcaps now have rounder wings and narrower beaks and differ in beak and plumage color. This is speciation happening in real time. This is evolving before our very eyes into a tool-using mammal of epic intelligence. The most dramatic selective pressure might be rising global temperatures. I was recently in Namibia, and while I had the privilege of seeing some awesome animals, one of my favorites was surprisingly the Cape ground squirrel. At first glance, they look just like the squirrels you might see anywhere in the world, but they might be one of the best examples of rapid evolution observed so far. Southern Africa is rapidly becoming hotter and drier. The maximum daily temperature has increased by about 2.5 degrees Celsius in just 18 years. This intense environmental pressure has changed the squirrel's body shape. Their spines have shrunk around 5 millimeters or almost 6%. Their hind feet have grown about 11% relative to their body size. Most of these morphological changes are designed to increase their surface to volume ratio and allow them to shed heat faster and more efficiently. Their tails have also grown bigger and bushier, and they now use them as a shady refuge from the sun, almost like a little parasol. Insert adorable squirrel parasol here. But these adaptations and morphological changes come with an evolutionary trade-off. While the squirrels became better at shedding heat, they're now worse at storing heat. Namibia is a desert, and so overnight, temperatures regularly drop to freezing or near freezing levels. The squirrels have learned how to survive these cold nights by staying in their burrows longer. And most importantly, snuggling in large groups. The same can't be said for polar bears. The poles are the most rapidly warming areas on the planet, with the Arctic heating up nearly 4 times faster than the global average. Studies have found that polar bears are undergoing dramatic genetic change in a response. This study compared the DNA of polar bears in southern Greenland to those in northern Greenland. They found that genes linked to heat stress, aging, and metabolism behave differently in bears living in warmer southern regions than to those in the colder regions. Essentially, this means that different groups of bears are having different sections of their DNA changed at different rates, and this activity seems linked to their specific environment and climate. Specifically, shrinking and thinning sea ice is reducing their ability to hunt seals. This leads to food insecurity and is forcing the bear's digestive system to adapt to a low-fat diet of plants. Some news sources have framed this as a good thing, that it could help them avoid extinction. But there are evolutionary trade-offs to consider. Adapting to a lower-fat diet has affected their reproductive rate. Adult female polar bears are having fewer cubs. In the 80s, mother polar bears would have 2 to 3 cubs. Today, they're having 1 or 2. And the authors of the study have specifically said that it does not mean that polar bears are at any less risk of extinction. As Polar Bears International notes, even though their DNA is rapidly changing, it's not fast enough to keep up with rising temperatures. They cannot evolve fast enough to live in a world with significantly diminished sea ice. It's also worth noting that some bears might be doing better because the sea ice is behaving more sea icy over here, and then the less sea icy bears are doing worse. And like I've mentioned, humans aren't immune to evolutionary trade-offs either. Some recent genetic adaptations that emerged practically yesterday in biological time include the ability to free dive for long periods of time, adaptations for high altitude and hypoxic environments, resistance to contagious diseases, and lower blood pressure. How come you didn't get that gene?
I'm too old.
On average, adults today are about 10 centimeters taller than people born a century ago. Unfortunately, our brain size is getting smaller. I could have told you that. As always, sources are cited down in the descriptions, along with a link to MyHeritage where you can learn more about your own ancient origins. Use my code KP19, and for just $19, you get the MyHeritage kit, plus a 30-day free trial, free shipping, and so much more.